Well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello to everybody.
Mayor, it looks like you got everybody but David.
All right, I see someone trying to connect. Do we know who that is?
I think that's Eddie.
Okay, but Andrew, you say we are live and recording and ready to go?
Live, recording, and ready to go.
Thank you. Then the hour is upon us. Why don't we go ahead and call our meeting to order? First meeting of springtime. I know everybody's probably happy to be able to say that. Let's see. If I could ask everyone to, if we could have a moment of silence, please. And then tonight, Mark, could we ask you to say the pledge on behalf of the council?
Okay. You could stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mark. And with impeccable timing, good evening, David.
Good evening, Mayor.
Yeah. Let's see. Tracy, I believe that gives you an electronic roll call. Is that sufficient for you?
Yes, sir. That will be fine.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Each of you have a copy of the minutes of our last meeting if you'd like to look those over for any possible corrections or additions.
Motion to
Motion,
approve.
I'll second. Willow.
Thank you. Motion by Willow, second by Connie. And if there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Are there any opposed? Minutes are approved. Each council member should have also received a copy of our latest check register. Could you indicate if you received that register, please? Thank you. Let's see. Under public comments, I wanted the council to know that we had an additional public comment request from the folks who are who every year organize our 4th of July parade downtown. Excuse me. And they had asked to come before the council tonight to seek approval for that 4th of July event. We know that there are some evolving guidelines that are being suggested for events of this type. Devin is aware of a municipal order that the city of Henderson has passed that is where we try and give some guidance to opening to events like this as openly as we can, because we know that the council wishes to have this parade. But we want to make sure that we can bring you some guidelines, and we'll have those ready for you to look at by the next meeting. And in fact, Devin will email you a copy of the Henderson document, or the one that we would have customized to suit our purposes. Organizers of the parade were good with waiting until the next meeting, and we'll include them in this conversation as well. The other public comment, let's see. Tracy, we do have a resident on with us tonight.
Yes, sir. Mr. Griff.
Okay, Mr. Griffin, if you're with us, if you can identify yourself or turn on your camera if you wish to, and the floor is yours.
Yes, hello, Mr. Prather, Mayor Prather. My name is Jay Griffin. It's a pleasure to join you all. I decided, as requested, to get under public comments. Of course, I think it's great that the Georgetown News Graphic, is mentioning in their editorial comments, that how good it is to get involved with local government, local politics. I think that's where it all starts. And I noticed that, there's been a little increase in, people involved in some of the meetings. And I have been attending some of the traffic committee meetings, Mayor, and I don't know if you recall, we spoke several times within the last year, I believe, regarding some public safety issues. And of course, I commend you for the work that the city and the council and you all have been trying to do to try to correct this situation. It's well overdue. Our police department, fire department, everything has been underfunded, undermanned, and staffed for so long that it's kind of created an environment of public safety where people just ignore traffic laws and any kind of nobody seems to know what a speed limit or tailgating or a stop sign or a stoplight is anymore. And you all have acknowledged most of this. I know many of the police officers and some of the sheriff's deputies I spoke to regarding one road in particular, which is Old Oxford Road. And that was mentioned at the last meeting. I'm really glad that you all brought up some of the safety issues on Old Oxford Road. It's been a problem for many years. I've lived here for 15 years. I know there was a gentleman at some of the traffic committee recently, and I think even some of the city council members concerned about the road connections. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, somebody speak? My bad. Anyway, what I'm trying to find out is I was really happy that finally the county reached out to the city to try to correct it because, the road's been widened years ago. I think it was around 14, 13 years ago. I've lived here 16 years already. Actually, I was 15. And I was really happy to hear that. But one of my big concerns, the stretch I live at, and I am the closest house to Old Oxford Road, as far as I know, as far as distance from my front door, bedroom windows, living room, everything to the edge of the road. And it's probably the straightest stretch going down a hill towards Lanes Run Creek and up the hill where I believe there was a student that was killed many years ago due to speeding up the curve, which kind of rounds the corner to Oxford Manors on your right. And of course, that was before the new subdivision on the left was there, which is another big straightaway. But, it's really gotten out of hand. And some of you, I know Mr. Lusby, and I think Mrs. Stig Sames, the former mayor. In fact, I used to walk your dog down that road some in the past. It's been a number of years since I've seen you. It's nice to see you again. But it was, even you acknowledge it's really gotten even more since when you were mayor. And of course, the police department back in the day when they approved all these subdivisions, through all these public meetings, which I was at a lot of them, including the one about the Mill Apartments, where we had $100,000 to spend to help Old Oxford Road. It's gone now. It went to Cherry Blossom, Big Cabana Path, if I recall, after it was tabled. But anyway, everybody says we don't have the money, and everybody says we can't do anything. Well, I was in the newspaper. I did not plan on bold print the front page, but I was very serious where my life has been seriously threatened numerous times by just construction trucks or vehicles just flying down this road 2 feet off my bumper or illegally passing me. The police department has been sent video of this in the past, no action. So I'm really happy that you're going to widen the road, but why can't we do something to make it safer? And of course, hopefully this will trickle throughout Georgetown, because nobody knows Lunsby Way over there by Kroger, named after your father, I believe. Nobody even stops at it. I've seen numerous close calls sitting out there having a little appetizer and a beer at Roosters on their patio. It's a joke. Haven't been there in over a year, though. I do follow COVID rules. But can we do anything, Mayor? And I'm reaching out to you because I have been just ignored through the traffic committee meetings, in my opinion, since July. I've been, forgotten about. Nobody sent me the links. Thankfully, Mr. Hartley has been doing that recently.
Let me
Road was brought up at the June
respond,
July
Mr.
meeting.
Griffin. You're out of time, Mr. Griffin.
I know you're okay. Well, let me ask you this. Can we just do something? And what my question, can you follow up with the traffic committee meeting? Why can't we do something with the stop sign, speed limits? I know we don't have police force, and even if they hire a few officers over 3 years, they're not going to be able to patrol that road. But why can't we slow people down, guys?
Mr. Griffin, you're
a
out
city
of time.
garbage truck almost 30-foot skid mark in front of my house, a city garbage truck, because they almost collided with me when I got
Thank you, Mr. Griffin.
hazard lights on. Come on, Mr. Nash or Lieutenant Nash, do something, please. God, and you know it, former mayor, and you know it, some of the people.
Andrew, would you please mute?
I'm done.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, council members.
I'm sorry too.
May I say one thing, Mayor? I'm sorry I got on late here. This is not Elizabeth Hightower, it's Eddie Hightower. My daughter logged in under her account. I apologize. We have not ignored him in the traffic committee meetings. In fact, we've put up a trailer for speed, a sign trailer. We are working on this shouldering project. I told him about the build grant project that we've been after. So I just want to get that on the record and I'll be quiet. Thank you.
For the rest of the council's understanding, the traffic committee does a lot of work. Todd and Connie can speak to that. It's one of the hardest working committees we have. I know that this issue has been heard at length in front of the traffic committee. I have had conversations at length with the citizen. Council is aware we're doing the best that we can with the circumstances that we have. So if there are no further public comments, is that it, Tracy?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Moving forward to mayor's comments, and I do have a couple of mayor's comments to bring the council up to speed on. First, you've received a revised budget schedule. You got that by email. Arlene, Stacy had Arlene send that out for you all, so you would have that. Also, the revenue forecast, we were delighted to report to you that 4 council members responded to the revenue forecast, and that makes it a pretty productive exercise for us. Stacy's in the process of dropping those into a spreadsheet where she can share the aggregated data and the spreadsheet where you're identified as council members 1, 2, 3, and 4. So thank you for participating. Those who did, you shall remain anonymous and your numbers will be aggregated. So, but that's helpful to us. Thank you. Also wanted to let you know that we extended the bid date on our West Main Street project, our TAP grant, until March the 30th. Pretty certain we'll get better bids as a result of this extension. There were a number of questions about the portion of our bid West Main Street. Most of the questions had to do with the historical work that had to be done on the historical viaduct. That's a dry stone viaduct, and it takes a certain specialist to be able to do that work. And there were some technical questions about the bid. Those got resolved. We still think there's significant interest in bidding on the project, but we knew it was in our best interest to extend that bid date. It actually does not change the date at which we'll bring the recommendation to the council. We just wanted you to know that internally we had given that additional time on that project. Our Main Street clean sweep activity is now scheduled for April the 23rd from 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. It's supposed to be a long lunch hour where downtown merchants, city staff, public works staff will be out wearing gloves and picking up trash and raising awareness. Bluegrass Green Source, which is our partner on our EPA initiatives, on our public education part of our EPA initiatives, helps us organize that. Council's invited to participate if you'd like to. Anyone that's got a little bit of time during lunch that day. Also wanted to, two major things that I wanted to mention to the council. First is, I know that you all are getting questions as individual council members, and you probably have questions of your own about the American Recovery Plan and what that means for Georgetown, what that means for Scott County, and just exactly how all that will play out. And we want you to know that we have the same questions with you, and we're seeking answers for all those things, seeking clarity on what can and can't be used. Those stimulus dollars can be used for. And as we learn more, we're going to share that with you and have your thinking as well. But wanted you to be aware that that is something that clearly is a priority item for us, and something that we'll bring you more information about just as quickly as we can. The other thing I wanted to touch for a minute on the gigantic step that the city council took at our recent council meeting on the insurance premium tax, and the fact that that was done with the unanimous vote of the city council. I want to congratulate the council for getting to that point, and for understanding the city's circumstances. It's a huge step forward, and it's going to allow us to bring you a proposed budget for you all to go through and consider its content. That's a lot more attractive and will do more for public safety than we would have been able to otherwise. I did want to remind everyone that the bold action that the council took with that insurance premium tax will fully fund the improvements that we've called for and have identified, and now will include in the coming year's budget. So there shouldn't be many surprises there at all for you. It'll be consistent with the plan we've talked about for some time. And that insurance premium tax action will fund those improvements that we put in place for the coming budget year, for that budget year and all the years going forward. We didn't sunset it because those expenses continue to go forward. We also, and this will be up for further council discussion, but we also based our projections on a 5-year look into the future and a 3-year plan on some hiring initiatives. And we have funded step one. We still have to consider years 2 through 5 and how those improvements and the continued implementation of this plan will actually be funded. So as big as that step was, I just wanted to take a moment and remind the council that there will be other steps to take. In that regard, we've just started a conversation about a potential change from a net profits tax to an insurance premium tax. And that is a large move that confuses a lot of people at first. It seems to be complex. And I know that I need to learn more, City Council needs to learn more, and help our citizens learn more about this. But as we begin to learn more details, I thought it important to emphasize what the gross receipts tax is and what it is not, and what it will do and what it will not do. I've gotten a call from a citizen who had real questions about the gross receipts tax, and it actually indicated they had spoken with one or more council members and had not found a lot of information. Admittedly, we haven't gotten that far into it yet. But they indicated that some council members agreed with their concern that this would raise taxes on small business. And from the inception of this conversation, any talk about changing the net profits tax has centered around the fact that after studying the net profits tax and who pays it and how much they pay, we know that the net profits tax is unfair to small business. We know this. The data shows that our current net profits plan is unfairly balanced, with small business carrying more of a burden than they should. We know with data that we can only show you in aggregate that there are significant enterprises with significant employment and significant revenues that the burden of this needs to be spread out in a more fair way. So if you're asked a question about, is this going to harm small business? In fact, it is designed to improve the plight of small business. I think from the presentation we showed you that there's somewhere between 35 and 40% of the businesses in Georgetown will actually see a reduction in what would have been their net profits burden. There's a significant swath in the middle that will see a very small increase or decrease. There will be some larger businesses that will have a significant impact. The second purpose of the gross receipts tax, obviously, is to raise more revenue. That's why we gave you the plan that shows the need for additional revenues in years 2 through 5. We concluded with a lot of input from industry and others that we were probably as heavily dependent on payroll tax as we should be. It's an option to raise our payroll tax, but that further exacerbates our overdependence on that particular revenue source already. And I think employees carry enough of the load today. So we will be bringing you more information about a gross receipts tax. I hope that you'll help citizens like the gentleman I talked to today who has a number of rental properties in Georgetown and was really concerned about how this was going to affect him. He's also previously worked in industry and was a financial analyst. So I urged him to go to our website where we do have posted the original analysis from a year ago, which is entitled A Brighter Future. We also have the updated analysis that we gave you recently, updating, freshening those numbers. And also on there is the presentation that we gave to the city council about the gross receipts tax, which is doesn't have all of the specifics, but it's a great learning. It's a great place to start for people who haven't been exposed to the concept. This gentleman told me he was going to go absorb that stuff, read it all, and then call me back, and we're going to talk more. If all our citizens would keep an open mind to what this might look like, then I think we can help with that process. And I just wanted to encourage you to, with us, learn as much as you can and be receptive to a process. And I'll stop there. Thank you. The last thing I'll leave you with is sometimes I like to just give the council a heads up of something that we know is coming down the road pretty quickly towards you, so that you can plan for it. You can just mentally prepare yourself for it. The significant zone change proposal that is before the Planning and Zoning Commission concerning the Singer property on North 25. That goes before the Planning Commission on April the 8th. Depending on what happens at that meeting. Well, actually, I think regardless of what happens at that meeting, I think the next step will be the Georgetown City Council to ask for the zone change. And Devin, that may require an annexation as well.
I believe it does.
So I just wanted to put that on the council's radar, that that will be one that checks all the boxes and meets meets the criteria. But it is also, as it's presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission now, it is projected to be 600 units with a single entrance on the US 25. So that completes my mayor's comments. And let's see, Chase, I believe that brings up you for about a half a page of our agenda.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And coming to you with a new and improved, or hopefully improved, microphone and camera.
Yeah, so far it's a lot better. Thank you.
I apologize that I brought you one of the most important presentations with bad technology last meeting. So tonight we have 9 purchase orders and 1 construction contract. And if I could just, if you would allow me to run through all of the business items and then have time for questions at the end, I think that'd be the most beneficial use of our time. Items and just some background on this list of purchase orders. Items G, H, I, and J are purchases within our current approved FY21 budget. Then just for background again, a number of our projects and purchases that are part of our current budget have been delayed by choice, as we really did not know how the FY21 budget would play out with respect, especially to revenue due to the health pandemic. We chose not to move forward with a number of purchases and projects until this last quarter of the fiscal year. And one major project that we have delayed is phase 2 of our operations center. That's a construction contract. And we had budgeted $600,000 in this current budget. while we are moving forward with that project, we will not spend all of that money. We won't spend anywhere near the 600,000 for that project in this last quarter. So because of that, we've decided to pull some purchases that are scheduled for next year's budget, the FY22 budget, that are included in our 5-year program that I presented a few years back. We're in year 2. Into this year's budget. So our CapEx budget for FY22 is not so significant that we've pushed all these projects, and that budget for FY22 will just be more than we want to try to handle in 1 year. So again, items A through F on this current agenda are actually FY22 purchases that we'd like to move up, that we know we can complete in this last 3 months of this fiscal year. So all that being said, item A is a purchase order to Bennett & Williams. That's for $27,000. This is software updates to integrate our valve and hydrant maintenance into our work order and GIS system. This is a sole supplier, again, part of the FY22 budget. The item B is another purchase order to Bennett & Williams for $12,000. Again, this is a software upgrade to integrate our customer service outages and info with our work order and GIS system. The goal of this is to provide real-time info and automatic notifications to customers that our operations staff can send from the field, and notify our customers of anything that's going on. So better communication tool. This is a sole supplier, something we're pulling from the 22 budget into 21. And on these first 2 purchase orders, think of this technology. This is a workforce multiplier. And ultimately, is on these 2, I think that these type functions, these type capabilities will ultimately be required by Kentucky Division of Water or US EPA at some point in the future. I think we're headed in that direction. So we're getting out in front of it a bit. Item C is for Water Solutions, $12,720. This is for a new analyzer. It's replacing a 16-year-old analyzer that helps with our chemical dosage at the water treatment plant, another sole supplier. And again, in the FY22 budget. Item D is for Rodden Myers, purchase order in the amount of $13,617. This is for a valve actuator replacement at the water treatment plant, another sole supplier, and part of the FY22 budget that will be upcoming. Item E is to the Hawk Company for $16,293.18. This is for replacement of a turbidity flow sensor at the water plant, sole source, and part of the FY22 budget. I'm mentioning that these are sole suppliers because we go by the procurement code that we do quotes and we do bids as required. A number of these are sole source items because the equipment that's being replaced is so old, it's actually hard to find a vendor that can provide a replacement. And often we're lucky if we just get one, as this is very specialized equipment. Item F is to Mitchell and Lindsay, and that is for $16,485. This is our arc flash assessment. This is evaluation of our electrical safety program at 55 wastewater pump stations. This is required by OSHA. We had it scheduled for next year, but we're going to try to pull that back into this year and get that knocked out as quickly as we can. Again, sole provider is finding somebody that can do this evaluation is very, very difficult. Item G, this is where I'm jumping back into this year's budget. This is Thompson Company, and this is for $17,050. This is our carbon media exchange at wastewater plant number 1, and this is for our odor control system. It is a budgeted item in the current budget. Next, we have item H is Micro Hard Systems, $19,725. This is replacement of 20-year-old SCADA equipment, mainly radios that will be used within our collection system and our water treatment plant. Again, a budgeted item in the current year's budget. Item I is GRW for $30,015. This is for bidding services for our wastewater plant number 1 upgrade and expansion project. And this is a line item within their overall contract that we create purchase orders against. Item J is a construction contract for Judy Construction in the amount of $347,000. Again, this is a construction bid for a new splitter box at wastewater plant 2. We received 2 bids on February 12th, and Judy was the low bid. This is budgeted at $300,000. We have checked with Toyota, and they have approved the budget overage for this project that was scheduled for FY21. So that was a lot of information I threw at you in a quick amount of time. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Chase, that is a lot of information. I read a lot about it. Mayor, would it be too presumptuous of me to make a motion for all items?
No, I think that would be wonderful.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion's been made, and Tammy with the second. Is there any of these that you'd like to ask Chase a question about? Final chance. All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that's approved. Thank you, Chase.
Thank you all.
What else do you have for us tonight?
That's it for tonight.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Item 8 on our agenda under city attorney is second reading of the ordinance regarding communication services. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance relating to communication services in the city of Georgetown. Summary. Requires a valid franchise with the city of Georgetown for communication services in the rights of way of the city, subject to certain exceptions, and provides the nature of said franchises and establishes an application fee and process. 2. Provides that all franchisees shall pay to the city the greater of 5% of franchisees' gross revenue or $270 per antenna in the rights of way, and defines the procedure for said payment, along with reporting, inspection notice, assignment, and other miscellaneous provisions related to the franchise fee. 3. Requires that franchisee comply with the encroachment permitting requirements imposed by Georgetown Code of Ordinances, Chapter 32, and other terms and conditions that may apply to an encroachment into the city's rights of way. Provides expectations for the removal of relocation of facilities, including but not limited to cost, insurance, and bonding, permitting, notice, traffic delays, inspections, and repairs. 4. Outlines other miscellaneous provisions and provides for transitions from existing franchises. 5. Provides requirements for all franchisees providing communication services in the city of Georgetown, establishes licensing and conditions for private communication systems in the rights of way. 6. Defines, review, reporting, and record-keeping rights and obligations, provides for termination or cancellation, establishes duties upon foreclosure, states that time is of the essence, provides for equal employment opportunity, and defines violations and the enforcement and penalties therefore. 7. Provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time March 8th, 2021. Publicly read the second time March 22nd, 2021.
Thank you. Is there, the sponsors of this are Ms. Mitchell and Mr. Stone.
I make a motion.
And Mr. Stone makes a motion. Thank you.
Second.
Second, thank you, Tammy. Are there, and if there are no questions, and hearing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Showalter,
Yes.
Mrs. Tingle Sames,
Yes.
Mrs. Leslie Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Lusby,
Yes.
Mr. Hampton,
Yes.
Mrs. Hambrick.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. That ordinance is approved. Item B on our 8B on our agenda is a resolution approving application for CDBG CV funds. We had briefed the council earlier about a potential opportunity for a CDBG to help residents pay overdue utility bills. And the Bluegrass Area Development District was going to act as the applicant for this on behalf of the cities and counties, and we thought there could be up to as much as $200,000 of utility assistance for our residents. Devon's even hopeful in working with this that if we go through the first $200,000, there might be room to apply again for additional funding.
That's
Yep.
wonderful, Mayor. Can I make a motion on that?
Would you please? Thank you.
Yes.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Will. Motion's been made and seconded. And Devin, if I left out something there that needs to be pointed out, please fill it in.
No, you covered it very well. Appreciate the work of GMWSS. Jeff Nutter over there did a great job getting us some figures to help with that application so that we could understand the actual delinquencies we're dealing with. And the Bluegrass Area Development District has been great preparing the application. So if you run into questions, don't hesitate to contact me, but I'm hopeful that we can get this funding and help our citizens.
Great. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry I jumped back in here. If I could just echo what Devin said, the city attorney and our finance director, Jeff Nutter, they really made this happen. They took it and ran with it. And I think analysis of all the data that goes into this, it's not something that's done easily, and they both knocked it out. So, and I also know that there is a great need for this money for folks that have been out of work for this long. So I know it's going to go quick, and it's going to go to folks that need it. So thank you to Jeff, and thank you to Devin.
Appreciate you mentioning that, Chase. If there are no further questions or comments, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Are there any opposed? Then that resolution carries. Item 9 on your agenda is a municipal order approving contracts for abatement and mowing. For the new council members' benefit, we go ahead and have a couple of master contracts for mowing and just cleaning up lots, and then code enforcement can just call them on a rotating basis or keep them all busy. I think they worked out a really slick way they did the pricing and ended up getting the lowest pricing from all 3 of the vendors who applied. We wanted a minimum of 3, and we have 3. What I want to disclose to the council before you accept this municipal order is that 2 of these bidders are employees of the city of Georgetown. This has happened before on mowing contracts when public works employees have businesses on the side or do mowing on the side. We had this same arrangement last year, and we had no trouble differentiating between what was work and what was their contract work with code enforcement. So we don't think it creates a problem. We are aware of it, but wanted to disclose it to council in case there was any question down the road.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for that.
Thank you. Motion's been made.
I'll second it, Mayor.
Thank you, Dick. Motion's been made and seconded. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Are there any opposed? Thank you. That carries. Item 10 on your agenda under city engineer is a municipal order approving an amendment to our contract with Bell Engineering. Bell Engineering is the firm that we used, it seems it was years ago when we started our TAP grant on West Main Street. They're the ones who put together the concept of the improvements we would make and seek with the grant. What this does, it extends their contract to construction oversight. Since we're finally at the stage of construction oversight, and this will be paid through the grant funds as well. And would need a motion for approval.
Can I clarify one point there, Mayor?
Yes.
Yep.
This
Would
will
you-
not be funded through the grant funding. This actually, so Bell Engineering completed all of the preliminary design and the design for the project. And now for this construction oversight period, we have elected to bring them on, and Eddie, this will be funded through existing dollars in the engineering budget. So we won't need a budget amendment. The funds are there, but this part won't be funded under the grant, whereas the construction will be. Mayor, you're correct there.
Thank you for clarifying that. I kind of took the fact that we didn't need a budget amendment and
Doesn't
ran,
happen often.
I ran one step too far with it. So thank you for correcting me on that.
Yeah, thank you,
Motion
Devin.
made.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. I make a motion, Mayor.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Willow. And if there are no other questions or clarifications, all in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Thank you. Well, the next become pretty easy for us to do because they're applications for grants that don't require a match. Item 11, the fire department resolution, actually accepting Kentucky Office of Homeland Security grant. There's Chief. I knew I'd seen you somewhere on this screen earlier. That was a pretty complicated sounding grant application. Can you distill it down for us?
Yeah, we were successful in getting 5 gas air monitors. Basically gives us the ability to upgrade a few things and expand our capabilities, giving each engine company its own 5 gas monitor instead of a single gas monitor. So 20,300 is what the Homeland Security has given us, and there is a 10% match on that, if I'm not mistaken, right, Devin?
I don't believe we had a match on this one.
Yeah.
I think
And-
we were required to go to council for approval of the application based on their requirements. I'll confirm that, but I don't believe we have a match here.
But it is for air monitoring equipment
Okay,
in the
thank you.
amount of 20,000.
Is there a motion for approval?
Mayor, if would like to get clarification if there's a match or not, but assuming that there's not a match, or at least getting the information back, I'll make the motion on this. I would like to know the answer though, if we could get that.
We will get you that answer, Mark. Thank you.
Okay.
The original application was in the amount of 23,400. Our application match amount was 2,600. They did reduce it down a little bit, so our match should be just slightly right around $2,000.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded, and we're assuming here, Mark, that from that clarification from Chief Colson, that this likely will have an amount not to exceed $2,000. There are no further questions. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Are there any opposed? Okay, that carries. Under the police department, a resolution accepting Kentucky Office of Homeland Security grant. Officer Nash, how are you tonight?
Doing good, Mayor. How are you?
I'm doing well. And your all's grant is for what equipment?
We are purchasing 2 ballistic shields for our SRT team, 14 ballistic rifle rated plates for our SRT team, and 2 ballistic blankets for our SRT team. We're replacing expired equipment
Okay, thank you.
Does this one have a match, Mayor?
I looked it up. So it looks like the fire department elected to provide a 10% match to bolster their application, but it wasn't required. So the resolution approving their application did provide that match in the amount of, it was closer to 2,200, but we approved that via the resolution applying for the grant, but the police department did not offer a match.
Okay,
Okay.
Make a
Motion,
motion.
motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. Thank you, Karen. And if there are no questions, Josh, all in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Thank you. That carries. And then it looks like we're going to buy some ammunition. Municipal order is accepting a bid for ammunition.
is this in the budget?
Yes, ma'am. This is in the budget. It's in our firearms budget. It's under state contract through Keesler's for the amount of $20,489. There is there's a 9 to 12 month delay on ammunition. So there's a potential that this could carry over the next budget.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Tammy.
And I'll second it, but I have a question. And actually, I may have heard the answer in what he said, but it's been talked about that it's hard to get ammunition right now. So that is true with our own police department.
Yes, ma'am. Last year, it took us 6 months to get ammunition in from the similar order. And this year it's taking 9 to 12 months. We actually ordered ammo for our SRT team back in August and still have not received it.
So I hope this is a really silly question, actually, but we have enough ammo in stock to take care of us.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Well, second.
That was the exact right answer. Thank you.
Even if it isn't the right answer, that was the right answer.
Thank you, David. That's right. All in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay, that carries. Thank you very much. And I'm going to give you an attaboy with the chief for that. Okay, item 13 on the agenda is for council comments. And I'm just going to go backwards this time because it seems like I always pick on Karen and ask her to go first. So Willow?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Ever since the budget proposal has been looming, I've had more constituents contact me about a lot of things, and I have assured them, as you stated, that we are going to be very deliberate and very careful, and perhaps even have some open work sessions to go over things and give as much clarification as we can. And I have assured them that it is the small businesses that we are trying to keep in mind with this change. But I also wanted to have a big hurrah for Toyota having its 13 millionth vehicle roll off the lot. I think that's an exciting thing for Georgetown, and I applaud them for that milestone. And also for their vision for electric cars. By 2025, 40% of their fleet will be electric, and by 2030, I believe they said 70%. So that will save tremendous carbon footprint, and I think that's a good green step forward. Some constituents have talked about the number of false alarms that we talked about at the last meeting. They were quite shocked about that, as I think all of us were. And I know we're looking into that to try to decrease that. And I think that that could impact our revenue streams. But I also had questions about whether or not that would affect the number and open up the number of available police and fire that would be able to make calls. So I think that becomes a budgetary interesting analysis as well. Also, I had people contact me in light of the pandemic and other financial things as we get the CARES money or the stimulus money, how we might be able to use some of that money and spread it around rather than just do one or two large projects, and perhaps in a similar way, find ways to subsidize rent and to find low-cost housing. Housing in Georgetown is very expensive. And that's something that I think the council should begin looking at. And then I had quite a few constituents talk about the strategic plan for planning and zoning, and whether or not in the midst of our budget deliberations, we need to look at the growth projections and to see whether or not there are ways to control growth in a way that we are able to better manage infrastructure and public works and those kinds of things. So there are people contacting me wondering about how growth is going to be controlled in light of all of these things. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Willow. Very comprehensive. I'm going to have to think about some of that. I do think that the discussions about our subdivision regulations, design guidelines would be a good time for all of those issues to surface. And I would expect that there be a heavy public engagement portion to that. Just an immediate response, but thank you.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Mark?
No, sir, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen, I didn't give you much of a break. Oh, you're muted, Karen.
There we go. I had someone in the shop asking about, I believe it's Success Drive, where the car behind the fire station where the cars are parked on either side of the road. Which I told her we had brought that up at council once before about them parking in the right of way and that they could park in the right of way. But she says sometimes through there it's so tight that she can't get through to go back to like Canes. And she said she'd called the fire department and the fire department had actually complained to her about the cars parking there. So I went by a couple of times and it's just really a tight road. When I went by, they weren't really parked on the street. So I don't know if the fire department has had problems with that or not. But I told her we had a council meeting and I would bring it to the mayor and bring it to the council to just take a look at it and see if there is a problem or not there with it. So, and then the second question I had on the CARES Act that's coming up, do we know how much money might be coming to Georgetown?
We don't, Karen. We keep hearing different numbers. So that's one of the questions we're trying to get answered. We've seen numbers to and from, frankly. I've heard 4 different numbers that people were certain about.
Okay. Do you know a timeline?
The lowest of those numbers, Karen, was just over $6 million.
Wow. Okay. Gotcha. All right. That's all.
Thank you. Let's see, Greg.
Good afternoon, Mayor and everyone. Just a couple of comments. I too, like Willow, had a couple of comments come in about the budget situation and trying to start to have planning and zoning control the growth. And I encourage them to put their name on the list for public comments and express their concerns to us. And so I'm hoping they do that. Also, this is maybe more of a question for you, Mayor, but I've had a 2 or 3 comments about City Hall and what the status is of possibly reopening.
Gosh, Greg, I don't have a date. I think is my immediate answer. I don't have an immediate date right now, but I'm sure that'll happen at some point in the future. So far, I think we're at City Hall every day. It's just a question of actually being open for the public to come and go. Uh, and I know that, or I'm confident that over the last year, we've gotten the work done and met most of the expectations. But it's a reasonable question. I'll see if I can get some more technical data. It's just one I hadn't really, to tell you the truth, we've been just focused on other things and that hadn't been on the front of my mind. But it's a reasonable question and I'll get you an answer.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Connie.
Has anybody else, any of the other council members received an email from Erna A. Fascianos, the Vice President of National Program and Outreach for Council on Foreign Relations? Did you sign up for the webinar, Willow?
I have not yet. I was wondering if I had the same question, if anybody knew anything about it, if it was beneficial. Sounds like it might be.
Devin, do you have any idea on that? Have you seen that?
Not. Can you forward it to me?
Yes. I went on and registered. It's Wednesday. It's for an hour, 2:30 to 3:30. And it's about the state and local officials webinar, the CARES Act. It's on the CARES Act and implications for U.S. economic competitiveness. I don't know, it might be interesting or not, but I'll forward it to you, Devin.
Okay.
Other than that, Mayor, that's all I had. Thank you. Good meeting.
Thank you. Todd?
Thank you, sir. The only thing I've got, it was more along the lines for Stacy. I know we had the bid openings for the recycling program and that we only received one of no bid. Has there been any other interest since then?
Yeah, thank you, Todd. I meant to give an update on that and it completely slipped my mind. We did have, we've been working with the Public Works Committee on an RFP for recycling, contract recycling services within the city. We worked with Linda Ain, who is our outside counsel on environmental stuff, to help us put the RFP together. We sent it out and we got one response, and it was a letter explaining why the company offered a no bid. And it was straight and simple. We included two things in our RFP we shouldn't have. Just that simple. Nobody takes those two things. So we've talked with the folks that we thought were going to respond to the RFP. And Devin actually has a call Wednesday, I think, of this week with the Division of Solid Waste Management. We're wanting clarification on an ordinance, on a state statute, to see if it's going to delay our process 18 months or not. We don't think it will, but Devin's going to get some clarification on that Wednesday. Then we're going to change our RFP, send it back out, Todd, and I've been assured that we'll have at least a response.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, sir. That's all I had.
Okay, thanks. Tammy.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I did have a couple of questions. First, I have a call from a citizen with questions about the senior citizens. And it's currently not because of the COVID situation. Do you have any idea when that will be reopened?
I have not heard, Tammy. We can check. Bluegrass Community Action actually operates the Senior Citizens Center here.
Mm-hmm.
And I would need to check with them and see exactly what that status is.
Okay, thank you. Also, I think this is an appropriate time to ask this question based on something that you mentioned earlier. You mentioned 600 additional unit development on US 25 North. And I was just wondering if it's still on the call. I see you there. Do we have the capacity for that? Or is this like a multi-year project? Or
Well,
Yeah, but
Chase can't answer that technically, but they're already approved and that volume is already factored into our estimates. Is that right, Chase?
That is correct.
So the sewer
Okay.
is not going to stop that development from happening. That's where, the water company has had operated under kind of a queue system where whenever you got in line determined when you got serviced. It was when they worked their way down the queue to where you were. This development, the board had not considered any capacity agreements for some time. And then the floodgates finally got opened, and this is already approved for sewer. So that at least can be checked off.
and the single entry sounds very concerning on that road.
I think the single entry is you have a gas main blow up or you have some catastrophic incident at the front of that place. And then Chief Colson, you have a fire at the rear of it. You just use a bulldozer to clear the wreckage so you can get a fire truck through. We have the same thing at the Colony.
On the same road, and a high school, and a
proposed parochial K through 8.
well, okay, I'll just bring that up and let us think on that. Okay, and you said that the meeting is the 8th of April.
That's when this will be heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, thank you.
And then,
Finally, I was very interested in an update on the permit situation surrounding the false alarm situation, and any update that we have on it. It sounded to me like I like Willow was shocked, and like the rest of us, we were shocked at the number of false alarms and ready as necessary to move on that as quickly as possible. So, do we have any update at all? I know it's just been 2 weeks, but.
Yeah, so I've been working with Lieutenant Moore at the 911 center and hope to get some feedback from Chief Colson as well. But the biggest obstacle will be determining enforcement mechanisms. I think we want to treat it as a citation through code enforcement as opposed to a criminal penalty. But the logistics of that, I definitely want feedback from police officers, firefighters, code enforcement officials, because like we said, most of these alarm malfunctions occur on night shift when code enforcement's not out. So we're going to have all of our citation officers trained and able to issue those citations. So as somebody who doesn't issue citations, I'd like to get a lot of feedback from them before finalizing that.
If you need any help, I'm on the police committee, and I would happy to do.
Absolutely. I'd be glad to share it with you and Karen as police committee members and work with you before bringing the final product to council.
Thank you. That's all.
Thanks, Tammy. David.
Thank you, Mayor. Some good questions and comments tonight. And one that Greg kind of touched on was opening of City Hall. And I don't really have an answer for you. Our bank where I work, just like City Hall, we're there, we're doing business, but the doors aren't just open to the public right now. And it seems to have not been a problem. We seem to be getting things done in a pretty efficient manner. Maybe a more efficient manner, to be honest with you. We've kind of changed how we're doing things in terms of people coming in, and we're certainly using email more and video meetings more, things like that. So anyway, I guess that's your call, Mayor. You're the administrative branch, and that's the way it should be. I do want to touch on Willow and Greg both made the comment about growth in the community, and that's something that certainly I've been involved with, but I've seen for a very long time being on the council. When I first came on the council, Mayor, gosh, I guess it was back in the mid 90s, early 90s. I can't remember the year now, but at that time, it seemed like every meeting that we had, every council meeting, there was either an annexation or a zone change request. And it was essentially all residential that was coming to us. And maybe, Mayor, you'd say the same thing there during your time as mayor, which was just prior to me coming on council. Could you recall? I guess you experienced some of that too.
Sure.
That went on. It was unbelievable. Matter of fact, there was a time, maybe two different times, we put moratoriums in place just to kind of catch our breath and kind of try to get a handle on everything that was taking place. And then in 2000 and I guess 2007, when the housing market tanked, 2007, 8, 9, 10, gosh, 11, things really pulled back. I mean, a huge slowdown, virtually none in terms of any additional requests. And it seems like here in the past few years, we've been getting more. Nothing like what I experienced, gosh, the first 10 years that I was on council. And we've had several good directors at planning and zoning. I know, Greg, you've had the opportunity to work with probably at least a couple of those. Kelly Klepper was one of those. And I would get questions. People would say, well, are we growing too fast? Is there too much going on? And honestly, at one time, I thought that there was. I agreed with it. Today, I'm not so sure. I mean, I do see a lot going on, but from a percentage perspective, I don't think it's more than what we were experiencing from a percentage perspective back then. But what I was going to say is Kelly Klepper emphasized to me and to the rest of us that the absolute best tool that we had was the comprehensive plan. And that comprehensive plan, as you all know, that's the community's plan. That's the key, the community's plan. The community is involved in that plan. And that has to be evaluated every 5 years. And it goes not just through the community, it goes to planning and zoning, it goes to fiscal court, and it comes to the city council as well. So we all have our input into that plan, and all of us, do have some say. We're all asked to be involved with committees. So I think that's a very informative and enlightening tool that we have. And Greg, I know I'm telling you things that you know from being more involved than any of us there at planning and zoning. But the other thing that I would share is that when you do start trying to limit perhaps residential growth, then you certainly increase the price of affordability in a community. I mean, it's just a simple supply and demand issue that takes place. And even when we talk about impact fees, and I'm not saying I'm against or for them, I'm receptive to hearing the conversation and definitely learning more. But, those can have an impact as well on affordable housing. And that's certainly an area I'm sensitive to as well. So anyway, I just want to kind of share those thoughts as they're coming up. Seems like there was one more item I was going to mention, but it's escaped me. So
David, could I ask you a question?
Please.
When is the next comprehensive plan? Where's that 5-year cycle?
It's close. Does anybody know the exact timeline?
It's real close. Matt Summers has been coming to governmental affairs on Wednesday mornings. He might be one that you can ask unless the mayor knows for sure, but it is coming up.
In fact, Willow, what happens in these 5-year cycles of comprehensive plans is communities only occasionally do what's called a full rewrite, where they just go down to the nuts and bolts and the foundation and do hundreds of hours of community meetings and build the plan. Our last one was that type of plan where
Okay.
So this one, we're in an update cycle right now, where the staff is going to update numbers, update the data, make sure it's still relevant. They will have to still come to the city council and the fiscal court to get approval for what the portion of it called the goals and objectives of the plan. But I think we may want, and we probably ought to consider, Devin, inviting Joe to give an update to the council on just exactly where that process is and when it's going to happen.
That would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Here, I did think of the last little item that might be somewhat beneficial as well. It had to do with the fact that when we landed Toyota, which is obviously industrial development, when you do that in a community, the next thing to follow would be the residential growth. And this isn't something I came up with. This is what I guess was shared with us many years ago. I just remember somebody saying it, and they may have said it a couple times, but it really resonated with me because I knew it was important. I knew that it was what we were either experiencing or getting ready to experience. And this was a master planner, and I'm trying to think exactly where it came from, but I'm sure our planning and zoning staff could probably recite or reiterate this same kind of information. But when you get the industrial growth, which was obviously Toyota, and then there was additional industrial growth that came to the community because of it. We did a business park for industrial growth. So when you get that, you're going to have people come to the community that want to live there just from the convenience factor. And obviously that's what we have also experienced. But people have shouted out, well, we need more commercial, we need more retail, we need more restaurants, we need more medical, for example. Well, you're not going to get those things until the residential get to a certain point, because all these commercial people, they look at the demographics. They look at the number of rooftops in a 1 mile, 3 mile, 5 mile radius. They look at the income. It's amazing everything that they do look at, and how they either justify or they don't justify a community to come to. So we're starting to see some of the good commercial growth that we want, because that is certainly a more financially rewarding part of growth to have, and that's really what we were striving for. But without the residential, you're not going to get the commercial. And I'll even give you one more quick example. You would think with having Kroger, where they have recently located, we tried hard to get commercial development in there, which we have now, but it took 5 years for that project to stabilize. And it may not seem like a long time. It might seem like it happened quick, but it didn't happen quick. That was a very long time to go through, to have all that was developed and all that was spent, to sit there and wait that long for it to mature and to get to the point of where it was stabilized, or where it is today. So anyway, there are some big banks out there, and I don't want to mention any names. I'm not a part of those really big banks, but they've got issues financing commercial lots that aren't specifically tied to an anchor like Kroger. And we've got some of those in this community that we're all aware of. Some out at Canewood, for example, we've had issues with those commercial lots. They've been sitting there. They don't get mowed and maintained. Code enforcement has to get involved. Planning and zoning has to get involved. It's an interesting thing, but it takes time. And anyway, I just wanted to share all that. I know the Anderson project's going to be coming to us, and I've already told the mayor, and I think I've maybe shared it with a couple others, but I'll have to recuse myself, and I'm, that's fine, because I do have some interest with Mr. Anderson. But that's obviously, that is a big deal coming to the community. And from what I've seen, we've been able to, I don't know if negotiate's the right word, but why not ask for things? Every development that comes to this community, they're asking for things. They're asking planning and zoning, hey, can we do this? Can you forgive that? Can you, they're asking for a little bit of latitude here or there. I know, I mean, I see it. So if they're asking for a little something, sometimes the community might be able to ask for a little something. And I've said that as far as it goes to design criteria standards, I'm not satisfied with the way some buildings look in this community, how cheap they're built and how cheap they look. And I know that's something that we've talked about, and I think we're getting ready to hopefully, address and try to come up with some standards. Mayor, and I appreciate your lead on that, and Devin, and certainly Andrew as well. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. I've probably said enough, but I'll be glad to talk to anybody about this stuff. I mean, it's very interesting.
Thank you, David. Good conversation tonight. Is there?
Mayor, I have a point of information. For the check register, did we need a motion to approve, or did I just skip that beat and we don't need to do that?
I just asked you all to indicate if you've received it.
Okay,
So if you raised your hand, or if you can confirm for me you did receive it, we're in good shape.
all right, there we go.
All right, good. Anything else to come before the council tonight? If not, thank you. We will stand adjourned.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good night. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.